You're listening to Real Estate for Real People, hosted by the Stone Sisters. The Stone Sisters have built an award-winning realty business, and they're here to share some of their knowledge with you. A new episode drops every Thursday. If you enjoy the show, please share it with a friend and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. And visit www.stonesisters.com for more information just like this.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us again for another episode of Real Estate for Real People.
Today we are going to be talking about, it's just going to be Tamara and I, and we're going to talk about the market and give you a little bit of a real estate update and what we are seeing on the market. So
kind of an inside scoop for what's happening in Kelowna real estate. We've just entered the month of June, and just sort of an outlook of what we see, where there's some opportunity, and just sort of a general sense of what's going on.
So everybody out there is talking about the market, and you know, when you talk to Bank of Montreal, they just had an article posted. They talked about how they're going to be seeing, 20-digit drops in the market, and prices are going to drop down, a huge amount. And that, my take on it anyway, is that we might see some drop in prices, but our prices are up 17% from last year.
Yeah.
So if we lose what we gained in that year, last year was a really healthy market.
Last year was an exceptional market. And I think, those of us who are in real estate, I think even those who aren't directly working in real estate or invested in it, everybody knew the market was a little bit crazy, I'm going to say. I mean, It was extraordinarily busy. And I don't think that level of growth was sustainable.
No.
So I think we're coming back to a more normal market. Talk about the stats, Shannon, you were just sharing with me, because that's really interesting.
So,
these are the facts.
I mean, and, as you said, we're going back to a more normal market. The frenzy has definitely slowed or stopped. I think that multiple offer situation, we're not seeing as much, seeing it in some cases, but if those properties are priced very fairly, you are still seeing that. When we look at the stats, I found this so interesting. So when we look at May, we finished off the month of May with 3 months of inventory, and we had 567 properties sell. When we go back and look at 2019, so when we look at that same month of May in 2019, which 2019 was actually a pretty good year.
It was a healthy, good sort of, I don't want to say typical real estate market, but it was a balanced market.
It was a balanced market. So listings, we had months of inventory, 6.5 months of inventory, and we had 527 sales that May of 2019. So, when we look at 2020, back when the market started to pick up again, I would say July and August was back in kind of that frenzy started after we had the lockdown and everything sort of opened up and people suddenly were wanting to move quickly. We had 4 months of inventory and 693 sales.
Wow.
So, we're at 3 months of inventory. Our inventory levels are up, I think, about 72% from this time last year. Again, we're comparing to a year that broke tons of records last year. So we can't really compare to last year.
No.
But that inventory level, increased significantly, but we're still low compared to most markets.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think today when you search single-family detached houses from Peachland to Oyama, so that's central Okanagan, right now there are 1,052 houses that are on MLS. But in a normal market, in what we've always considered a good market, that was around 12 or 1,300 houses. So comparing when we look at the market and the media is all over the fact that inventory is up 72% and what have you, I think people are really forgetting that we had almost nothing for sale. There was nothing to choose from. And people were making huge concessions and buying stuff they really didn't want because that's all they had.
So when you look at what's on the market right now...
Yeah, there are 1,052 detached houses for sale in the central Okanagan. So Peachland to Oyama, 1,052. Compared to, a couple months ago, we were at 200 or 300. And that's everything. That's every price point from 300,000 up to 20 million or whatever the most expensive home is. So it's, historically speaking, our normal in a healthy, balanced market would be 1,200 to 1,300 homes. So
even more, 1,500 probably.
So there's still actually less for sale than we used to see, than we've grown accustomed to seeing. But the media, I think, is really saying, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to our media friends listening, but it's easy to report on sort of the sensational news of a big change. And the reality is, things are still healthy. It's still
things are
moving
healthy.
Well.
I mean, and when we talk about big change, and I guess, there is a change. Certainly there's been a change. That frenzy is gone, but it's not as though it's doom and gloom. And I think that's the difference is, is we can talk about the change. Right now we've got 28% of single family homes on the market are selling. That's still considered actually a seller's market. When we get down to about 18%, we're in a balanced market. So we're still leaning in a seller's market. It's still a healthy market, and our advice always to people is, as long as you're planning on buying a property, holding on to it for, 5 years. When we look in the central Okanagan over the past years, we've been in business 25 years, properties always go up in value every 5 years or less than that. But if you can plan on living in a property for 5 years, you'll be just fine.
Yeah.
And that's looking back through, early 2000 all the way up. So buy that property. Don't think you're going to be doing a quick flip on it, and you'll be absolutely fine. I wouldn't say wait on the market, because if you have the property that's there that makes sense, that, meets all of your needs, absolutely don't wait, because that property will go.
Well, and it's just nice that people have some choice, and that you don't, it didn't feel very good when people were, desperate to get into anything. So they'd really, they needed a 4-bedroom home, but they'd buy a 3-bedroom.
Yes.
And a year later, they're going, we really needed the 4-bedroom, and what do we do now? So I feel better about it, that people have some choice, that they've got a little time, and, real estate is still likely the biggest investment of someone's life. And
well, honestly, this is the fun part of the market, and it because we get to negotiate. Now we can actually go in. You don't have to just, go in with a super high price, not make it any conditions or anything. Now you can go in with an offer that maybe is a bit lower than the asking price. You can negotiate with people. You can potentially, get the dates that you want, or what have you.
You can put subject clauses on.
Yeah, you can do your home inspection.
Appliances and the bar stools. Whereas a year ago, that was all, there was a joke going around that people could just give a blank contract to a seller and say, well, you fill it in with what you want. I'll take it at any price.
Yeah. Honestly, and that's what was happening. And that's something too, when talking to sellers right now, to where do they value their house? We're in a market that is changing, certainly, and prices, are going to shift. Where do they value their price? And we look at past sales, and if we look at something that's sold in March, February, that price isn't realistic to what that house is going to sell for today. What we need to do is look at what that house was listed for. That's our recommendation, is looking at what attracted that offer. Was that house listed at 1.2, but it ended up going into multiple offers and getting outbid up to 1.6? That 1.6 probably isn't the relevant number.
True market value. No, I would agree. That was just that frenzied market where things were out, bid up high. And yet, if you go and talk to some of those buyers who paid $100,000, $200,000, $400,000 more than asking, they're not regretting it, even though they know that may have been a little optimistic, and they got in. They got a home they want. They're loving it. We have a few clients who we would caution them and just say, you're paying $200,000 over asking price, and they were fine with it. And 6 months later, they're still fine with it, because they're in their home and have no intention of selling right now.
And I think, again, it goes back to that 5-year plan. If you're looking at something for at least, or not at least, but 5 years or less, you're going to do just fine, even if you bought in the frenzied market. So
it's always been tough with people who, and I know, Shan, we can both, remember in 2007, 2008, when people were buying houses purely on speculation.
Yes.
And with the plan of flipping them prior to even closing, and, wanting to make a quick 50,000, 100,000, 300,000. And who wouldn't? I can't blame people. I would have liked to too. But the reality is that's, these are high stakes, and I don't think that's ever been realistic, and it's not realistic right now.
No, and what's interesting, it just made me think of that, is we didn't see as much of that in this last market than we did back in 2006.
Not at all.
So that's interesting. It was more families buying their homes that they're going to live in. It wasn't as many as those investors buying that flip that they're buying and holding on, going to turn around and sell in a year. It was investors were buying, but buying something that they were going to rent out and hold on to for a duration.
And I agree, except in some places, I think in the condo market. I think we have seen a lot of speculation. And I know a number of people have purchased new condos, and they're going to live in it full time. Or, we've got some real estate friends from Ontario who have bought in the new buildings, and that's going to be their getaway, their ski chalet, their summer fun place. But I think there are a number of people as well who have bought in new buildings purely thinking that they'll sell before they're even built. And
only thing is the assignment fees now.
If they even allow it.
Yeah, they make it pretty prohibitive. So I think that's maybe what stopped some people buying without the plans of completing. They might still be planning on completing and selling,
Yes.
but hopefully they have the funds to complete. Let's hope.
Well, let's hope. I think that's where we may see some people who weren't going to, who bought on speculation, thinking they'd buy a condo and sell the rights for it. But the developers are wise as well, and they're looking at things knowing that when they pre-sold the condo in 2019, it was worth $600,000, and today that condo would sell for $800,000. So that developer usually is not even allowing the contract to be assigned. Because they know, the buyer will close on it or give it back to the developer, who will then sell it for current market value.
Yes. Yeah, really good point. Anything else that you're seeing out there? Or if somebody was looking at buying right now, any advice that you would give them?
Well, I'm just relieved for a buyer that they've got time to breathe and time to look, and it's not that you'll come and look at one house or two houses and buy one. It's that you'll come and maybe look at 10 houses, or 10 online and 5 in person. And as you'd said earlier, Shannon, that you will be able to hopefully negotiate a little bit and get some terms that are favorable for you, the buyer. So,
and any advice for a seller right now?
I think as a seller, I think you really do have to be cognizant to the kind of market we're in. We have 1,100 realtors here in Kelowna. Lots of them really want to get a listing. So, I'm saying this to people that we meet with a lot, that some realtors maybe aren't as up to speed with what's going on. Some of them really want to just get your house listed and then maybe it will sell, but maybe use that listing, hold open houses or what have you, use it to sell something else. And I think really be cautious as a seller, really make sure that somebody's not just telling you what you want to hear to get you to commit to them for 3 to 6 months. But, and then, once you've determined a fair price and a fair strategy, make sure you choose a realtor that you communicate really well with, because your house likely won't sell in a week or two. This is likely a 3 to 4 month relationship you're going to have.
Or 6.
Yeah. And you want to know that somebody's actually got your best interests at heart and are going to communicate with you and keep you informed as the market changes. I mean, often we see the market pick up in the summer. We're sitting outside today. It's gorgeous and sunny. I feel I'm getting a little bit of a burn almost. And that tends to bring out buyers. That tends to be good for our real estate market.
Yeah, it's true. It's so funny to think the real estate market follows the weather, but it does. It honestly does. Yeah. It's a really good point. And I think the biggest thing is, sellers now are starting to say, well, should I wait? And no, don't wait, because we don't know what's going to happen. I think just be, as you said, be aware of the market. Make sure you're in constant communication with your realtor, because the market is shifting and changing. So you just want to make sure that you're on top of it.
Yeah. And have it show well.
Absolutely.
I think we're back to make sure your house is Q-tip clean and replace the doormats and give your front door a fresh coat of paint. Make sure it smells good. And, for a bit there, you didn't have to, people weren't opening closet doors. You were able to kind of let things slide. And I think we're back to a home that presents well and has fresh flowers and looks good and is priced properly. That will sell.
Yeah, you're right. Great advice.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for tuning in to us today. If you want to learn more about the real estate market or have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at any time. More than happy to help.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Real Estate for Real People. If you want to reach out to the Stone Sisters, visit www.stonesisters.com. This podcast was produced by Podigy Podcasts. See you next time.